Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Pew, and welcome to day 250 of the year of change. Pew. I'm going to keep that from now on. Oh, starting this off really well. I know we're normally supposed to be doing like 100 and 200 and 300 and everything else, but we are a quarter of the way through 1,000 days. So I think it's a substantial milestone. So good times. I'm spitting all over myself already as we start. I know the Thursdays are normally a day when I say, oh, well, here's something very serious and sciencey and, lots of numbers and results and everything else. And I am going to do that, but I've been sort of flip-flopping back and forth because I didn't really want to do this as a major milestone, but it is significant because 250 is like, as I say, it's like a quarter of 1,000 days, which I know is not anywhere on our radar, but it's a big chunk of time. So, bravo. Anyway, I think I already said that. Bravo again. Good enough. 250 days. We should be happy. But I have two stories that came out this week that I wanted to take a look at. But before I get into that, I really wanted to sort of revisit something. And I know that we're sort of at a stage now that I shouldn't have to say this, but I feel like I do all the time. And it's not because I, get bad information from people or people comment and say, oh, well, you're wrong. This is what's going on here. It's that it's just one of those, keep this in mind whenever you read something sort of things. What it is that there's the two stories that I have. There's one on walnuts and there's one on just diet in general. But when I first went to look at the stories, of course, the headlines I just sort of kind of be dismissive of those anyway. I be dismissive of them. I am dismissive of them to begin with, because I understand that it's there just to sort of catch your eye. And then as you continue reading on, and you just sort of get the feeling that not all the information's in there. So the first one that I wanted to bring up was one about walnuts. And this is something that the headline just says something like, walnuts will lower cholesterol. And then, of course, it says, oh, well, eating walnuts every single day can lower cholesterol, says this new study. So they have like the headline to grab you, then the little blurb, and usually that's all that people read. They just go, walnuts are good for you. It's like, no, that's not what they're saying. It's like, no, it'll get rid of your bad cholesterol. It's not what it says. It's like, no, walnuts cure cancer. It's like, no, calm the fuck down. That's not what they said. And they go, rub your nuts up against the wall. You'll be able to fly and see God and travel through time and everything else. People just sort of latch onto one thing and then they run with it. And so I just sort of wanted, before we get into that, because we have talked about nuts and seeds and all the other stuff, that the study itself, when they look at it, they said yes. They had this control group of people, and they said, okay, here's what you're all going to eat, but one group is going to have nuts, and the other group or walnuts specifically, the other group is going to have no walnuts. They're not allowed to eat them for like 6 months or something. So they decided, good enough, we're going to, we'll do that, we'll follow through, and then at the end of the day, we're going to take a look at them. And they looked and said, hey, look at this. The people who had walnuts as part of their diet had lower cholesterol. This is really simplifying things, but this is pretty much what it looked like. So, of course, everyone's going, oh, walnuts lower cholesterol. But they do say this in the news article as well, which was refreshing. At least I didn't have to go and look at the study itself to find out this little bit of information. That the the people in the other group that were told to avoid them also had lower cholesterol. So the same sort of shit happens. And they said, well, it could be the placebo effect. We aren't quite sure what caused that. What they did find is that the people who were eating the walnuts had a more diverse diet. So chances are that may have contributed to it. It was something that they said it's worth looking into. But as per usual, they grab a tiny little nugget of information and say, this is what we're going to go with the headline because this is what people are going to read. And then they're going to go, oh, look at that. Walnuts cure blindness. They actually cite another study that was funded in part by the Tree Nut Preservation Society of Historical Disc Jockeys. I don't know what it's called. But it's obviously people that have a vested interest in it. But at least they acknowledge that, say, no, this was funded in part by this as well, and they put the posting up and everything else. The second one is sort of the same thing. It's just a study where they had people say, the headline basically just says, or some diet foods can make you fat, something like that. And the first little tagline says, healthy food for some, can make people gain weight in others. So says this study, blah, 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 blah. Now, they have a link to the study itself. The study does not say that. The study doesn't say that at all. There is, of course, the one thing that keeps getting repeated throughout the whole story is that I will get to that in a second. Let me go back to the study first. So the study took 900 people, and they took, I think, 100 of them, and restricted their diet and said, okay, here's what we're going to be looking at, and they monitored them. They took a blood sample every 5 minutes for 7 days throughout their diet, just to see how they progressed, what their blood sugar level was. That's what they were really checking for. Then they took 100 people and really controlled everything so that they could have a very accurate timeline. So what they found is that in general, high fat, high sugar, high salt, like bad diets resulted in weight gain, just poor health in general, and the more diverse, healthier diets, they in general resulted in weight loss and just a healthier lifestyle all the way around. Now, they actually have graphs showing where everyone shows up, all 900 people, and so you can see that they do sort of clump into one area. But of course, just with any test, there are going to be stragglers here and there. And the one that really stands out is this one woman who, according to the data, wasn't able to actually find this in the study itself, but it was mentioned twice during the article, so that when she ate tomatoes, her blood sugar spiked, like insanely high. And so, of course, they look at that and say, well, these are people that are at risk for diabetes to begin with. And they were looking at it saying, well, that's abnormal, that shouldn't happen. But of course, the news article now just says, well, keep in mind that, just because tomatoes seem to be healthy, it could kill you and you could get fat from them. So of course, that runs the risk of people going, yep, tomatoes make you fat. That's not what they said. They say, yeah, if you eat tomatoes, you will get fat and you will die. So don't eat tomatoes. You can have as much cake as you want. That's not what they're saying. And the problem is that is all too common. When people look at these studies and they grab one little tiny bit of information and they either panic or else they scream out that it's a superfood. We've run through that problem so many times. The whole, kale bandwagon that people are on. Just all this sort of stuff that really just gets on my nerves. And I know that every single time I put something like this up, I say, no, go look for yourself. Read the actual study. Go compare it with different things. And I think that we are at a stage now where we can look at a headline and go, all right, that's interesting. I think I'll go take a look and see if it's bullshit or not. And then you can read and go, oh, look at that. It's bullshit, or it was true, or it's not quite what the headline led me to believe. We're sort of at that stage where we know that, where we can go and we can look at the information. In the long run, this second study, by the way, the tomato thing, it was one person out of 900 people that had this weird blood sugar reaction to tomatoes, specifically to tomatoes. So, this is going by their information. We assume that it's true. We assume that it's accurate and that, everything is on the up and up. But that is one person out of 900 that is really weird. There's something, it's a reaction that they have. I don't know if it's an allergic reaction or something like that happens with tomatoes. That's what caused it. It's not the tomatoes. You're fine with tomatoes. Keep eating them. If they're good, they're fine. Unless you're allergic, in which case don't eat them. And you probably already know. Or you've eaten them already and you're dead and I don't know why you're watching this now. Anyway. So, the main thing for the main focus of the study itself, the main result, I should say, at the end of the day, is simply that if you were to, you can't just say, okay, well, eat this, you'll lose weight, and that's really all that it was saying, was that there is no one specific diet or list of foods that someone can have that's going to help them lose weight. It is an individual thing. In general, yes, you can look at the data or data. You can look at it and say, obviously, a low sugar, low fat diet, with low sodium, all the bad things. If you eat healthier, generally, you feel healthier, you lose weight. And I know that we've really oversimplified a lot of the stuff that we've done by saying, eat less and do more. Because for us, if you're going to narrow things down to just two things, that's pretty much it. And if you're going to narrow it down to one thing, eat less. There you go. That would be it. That's the majority of our problem, is that we simply eat too much food. The type of food doesn't seem to matter, but that's really simplifying everything. But we said right from the very beginning that not everything that we do is going to work for everyone. What's going to work for me may not work for everyone that's watching this, and that's why we have added more YouTubers in there, because some of them are doing one thing and some of them are doing another. That we've seen paleo diets, and what was the other one? Atkins. I keep forgetting that one. Keto and all the other stuff. They're trying different things, and some of them work, some of them don't. but it's different for everyone. And of course, what I'm doing is working for me. And in general, over time, it will work because really that's what everyone's doing. When they're going on a diet, they're eating healthier, they're exercising more. So yes, it's going to work across the board. But yes, there are going to be people that are out there that, they are going to have that weird reaction when they have tomatoes, or if they're, they have something that just sort of very common, it's going to spike their blood sugar up, or it's going to, they're going to have a reaction to it somehow that's just out of the ordinary. So we know that not everything is going to work for everyone, but it's nice to have, the numbers behind it saying, here are 900 people that we took a look at, and yes, we can now show and we can prove not everything works for everybody. And it's not a sort of a simple matter of saying, well, here's a diet plan that you need to follow. The real sort of overall result of that study was that they said the best way for people to lose weight is to go and get a personalized diet done for you. To say, okay, here's what you should be eating, not here's what people need to be eating to lose weight. Here's what you specifically need to eat. Here's what you need to do for exercise. Here's what foods you need to avoid. And it could be something as simple as saying, increase the amount of fruits and vegetables, increase the amount of fiber, lower your sodium, lower your sugar, stop eating entire cakes in one sitting, which we've all done at some point. Shut up. And just generally, it could be something as simple as that. But every now and then, there is going to be someone that's going to say, you can't have that because you're allergic to it. You will die if you eat a potato. So don't eat that potato. And it really is tailored for everyone. And it's not anything new. It's not anything groundbreaking or anything like that. It was nice to be able to look at this in a study and say, okay, there are 900 people. And yes, we've confirmed it is really an individual thing. But the trends are there. You can see it. They have a number of different graphs up there. I'm going to put the description and link below, by the way, for both stories, as well as the main study. I know putting two stories in there is kind of weird, but the main reason why I'm doing that is because I've already mentioned the walnut thing, and it pissed me off, and then the diet tomato thing, which pissed me off. So I'm going to put them both in there. It's 250 days. We're allowed to put two in there. So when you're looking at stuff like this, I know I keep saying this over and over and over again, but don't just look at it and say, oh, well, obviously I can't have tomatoes, but I'm going to replace all my grape tomatoes I've been eating with walnuts every single day. There we go. Walnuts are also very high in calories. We know this. So obviously we can't just be, we can't be eating. Why are you saying that? We can't eat an entire bowl of walnuts and say, well, there we go. It's obviously much healthier than tomatoes. It's going to be different for everyone. In general, for the vast majority of the population, the tomatoes are going to be much better than the walnuts. We've talked about walnuts, that it's healthy fats that we're getting from it. They are good for us. There's fiber in there. That's going to help and everything else, but there's fiber in tomatoes. And they're much, much lower in calories, low in fat. So because we've sort of opened up our diet to so many different things, you can have a little bit of that and you can have a little bit of that and you'll be okay. It'll be all right. The main thing that I wanted to talk about, though, I'm really dry now. The main thing I wanted to sort of talk about, though, was just, it's really annoying when you see these people just sort of grab onto something that just, in this case, yes, it's related, but they just keep, in every story that was referencing this study, they're saying, oh, no, the tomatoes made this woman's blood sugar spike. It's not healthy, obviously. And it's not a matter of saying, a health food for one person is junk food for another. It's not that. They just, of course, they want to grab that one weird example where they say, oh, well, this complete winner, that's that person. That's not the tomato, and it's not whatever the alternative would have been. It's her reaction to a tomato, and I would assume it's going to be an allergic reaction. Something has gone wrong where all of a sudden your blood sugar spikes from eating a tomato, which is weird. Admittedly, it is really, really, really weird, but it's not because it's a tomato. The other 899 people had a normal reaction to it. But of course, once they grab that, they can say, so this proves that some people, if you have a tomato, then your blood sugar will be higher than someone who eats cake. So obviously, you shouldn't be eating any of those things. That's not it at all. Obviously, cake will increase the blood sugar probably for anybody. Yes, there's going to be one person in 900 that's going to be able to eat that cake, and it's not going to make their blood sugar spike because they can't process it properly. But in general, we know what is healthy. We know what we're supposed to be eating. We know what we're supposed to be avoiding. For the most part, you can have it every once in a while. But in general, we know what we need to do. We've known right from day one. It's just been so difficult for us to get started. And all these little tiny changes have made things much, much easier. But in the long run, all we're doing is eating better and doing more exercise. Really, that's it. So as I say, I'm going to put the description I'm going to put links in the description below. Sorry, so that you can go up, you can take a look. Both stories are actually from the same news source, but the studies that are there, you can go in, you can read them. There's a whole lot of fancy pictures if you don't want to take a look at all the words. I wasn't able to, as I say, I wasn't able to find the actual reference for that woman who was eating the tomatoes, but I probably have missed it because I couldn't find it. But you can see, even when you just take a quick glance at a graph showing the distribution of everyone, where their blood sugar was over the 7 weeks, compared to what they were eating. When all things are taken into consideration, you can see that the healthier diet is obviously better for people. Your blood sugar goes down, you reduce the risk of diabetes, it helps with your cholesterol, it helps with your blood pressure, it helps with a whole slew of stuff. So that's really what they were looking at, but they do have to look at it and say, you know what, it obviously shows that everyone following the same diet doesn't mean that everyone's going to have the same result. There are some people that you could follow the exact same diet that I am, and you could lose more weight, you could gain weight, you could maintain for weeks at a time. It is going to be different for everybody, but it doesn't mean that the theory itself and that the foods that we're eating are bad. It just means that we're reacting to it in a different way. And of course, if you have the opportunity to go to a dietitian, not a nutritionist, a dietitian, we've talked about this before, if you have the chance to go to an actual dietitian and have them, map everything out for you and say, here are things we found, you're allergic to this, you're allergic to this, your reaction to this is going to be abnormal. So these are some sort of things that are going to help you out. Then yes, definitely do it. Don't go and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on it, because chances are you've been making good progress over the past 250 days anyway, and that's just sort of throwing money away, and they're just going to go, keep doing what you're doing. Yay. So that's really all I wanted to sort of talk about. I've probably gone on far too long. No, not too bad. I'm trying to keep these cut down a little bit more because I went for half an hour on the weekend, and that's far, far too long. So, anyway, I was going to say I'm going to put it in there. Anyway, no. I got to say it now because now it sounds stupid. I was going to say I'm going to put the links in the description below, but that would be the third time I've said it now, so you already know. Anyway, they're down there if you want to take a look at them. But in general, when you see these little news articles, please take them, just don't take them as face value. Take all the information that you can, read it and go, I'm going to look into this a little bit more and see, okay, well, this is sensationalism compared to, well, this isn't exactly what it's saying, but I can see how they took that. It is difficult sometimes, especially when you see something like the processed meat causes cancer. It's now a grade 1 carcinogen. Well, it is, but that's no different than how it was, for the past 30, 40 years. It's exactly the same. So you don't need to stop eating it altogether. It just means, hey, look at this thing that we've been suspecting for the past half century, we've been able to finally prove. That's all it means. So don't panic, don't freak out, the sky is not falling. Take all the information in, make an informed decision as to what you're going to do. Things will be much, much better that way. So, I'm going to leave this video here. Happy 250th day, everybody, once again. I'm not going to cheer again, because I think I may have shown my armpit. But until next time, thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. In the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.